North Korea releasing a propaganda video depicting a nuclear strike on Washington, D.C. Former Dick Cheney National Security Advisor John Hanna says we should be taking these guys seriously. I know for years, John, we did laugh them off, and as their missile technology has proven to get better and better, and we take them a little bit more seriously. But a strike on Washington, D.C., does that seem a little far-fetched at this point?
Well, I don't think the regime itself is suicidal, Charles, but they clearly have spent the last several years making enormous progress developing a miniaturized nuclear warhead they can put on an ICBM that can range the entire United States homeland. The guy who heads up the command that's responsible for stopping missile attacks on America has said that repeatedly. So I think you've got to say the guy's got the capability. He's an unstable and untested enough person that you can't just dismiss it lightly. We've got to prepare. We've got to be able to continue to deter him, and we've got to be able to defeat him if necessary.
So if that's the case, why can't we assume that he could be mentally unstable? I mean, this guy's a dictator. He's a tyrant. He's a Jim Jones. I mean, no one can say no to him in this country. He could be off his rocker and say, listen, launch the missiles, no?
Listen, anything is possible, because the fact is that our degree of intelligence into the mind of that regime, much into the mind of this leader, is extremely, unbelievably limited and opaque. On the other hand, we have a pretty clear idea that this guy puts the highest premium on simply staying in power. And a lot of these threats clearly have to do with that. He's got a malnourished, if not starving population. They need lots of diversions. And the sense of being under siege from the United States and possibly war is a pretty good diversion for them.
What do we do about our allies, particularly Japan? When Abe was elected, it was my theory, at least my own hunch, that they were on their path to getting rid of their pacifist constitution. I don't see how Japan could sit by and watch the nuclear threat from North Korea evolve, and also the imperialistic threats of China with man-made islands. Do we say to these countries, hey, don't worry, we've got your back, or do we ask them, hey, you better start putting more skin in the game?
Well, I think you're right that both Japan and South Korea, I think especially over the last 7 years, have become increasingly doubtful about that U.S. security guarantee to them. But the surest way, if you want to have a nuclear arms race in Asia, because both South Korea and Japan are just a screwdriver's turn away from having the bomb, is to tell them, hey, America's out of here. We don't have your back. And believe me, if East Asia explodes into war again for the first time really in 70 years, it's going to have a devastating effect not only on that region, but on the United States as well. It's something we've really got to think twice about.
Yeah, I understand, but I know a couple of years ago when the Philippines asked Japan to rearm itself, considering the atrocities that the Japanese committed in that country, that's saying something about the threat of China. John, thanks a lot. Love your expertise and appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Charles.